basically for the VS Code editor before you start writing the code or executing the code. So in the VS Code editor, there are certain commands that we need to provide to install and configure Java. First is that we need to use the JDK, that is the Java Development Kit. So JDK will provide us with the interface and it will link the Java with our VS Code editor. So once that linking is done, then we can start writing the Java code and we can execute the code without any hassles. The first is we're creating a Hello World class. Here we are just writing few statement and we're trying to execute a Java programming, or we're trying to print some output here. So here we are using system dot out dot println command, and this particular command provides us with certain outputs that we are looking into. Welcome to world of Java programming. So once I run the code and configure the code, it will run and it will provide us with the desired output. So we'll have to start debugging. So once it start debugging, then the code will run and it will debug. And if there is any error, it will provide the error commands, and then it will display the desired output as we want. So this is the first program, a very simple program, which has the same name, Hello World with the Java. The second one is again a code that we can use. And here this particular code is about the Java array demo class. So here what we are creating an array. We can create an integer array, and then we can create a particular character array. So character array, for example, is name, and integer array is equal to marks. Now we'll put some name here in the a single quote in the character array A, B, and C. So this is a character array, and the one is the integer array. And in both this array, we are defining certain values. And using the for loop, we'll print the character array as well as the integer array. So we use a for loop or a looping construct here for integer. And then once that is done, we'll be able to provide the desired output for this particular program. So this is an integer array and a character array that works here, and it will display the desired output in a command. So if we write char and then we give the name of that particular array n colon, then we write the name is basically the name instead of marks. So this will provide us with the name array, and then we can display the elements using system dot out dot println. So here instead of m, we'll be using n, and then that will display the array element that we have taken into this particular array. So what we have done here, we have taken a class that is array demo, and in this class, marks and name are two different array. One is the integer array and one is the character array, and both the arrays providing us with this particular, this is a character array, and the name of the character array here we have given is the name. So this two array are providing us with the given interface, and now we run and debug the code, and then we'll be getting the desired output. So it's running, and for this we need to install the JDK Java Development Kit, and once that is done, it will give us the desired output that we are looking into. So it says that the name or a token equal to, so basically we have to just give a space here.
Excuse me, Shantanu.
Yeah.
Just I am logging out, okay? I have some work, okay? You continue Priya,
Okay.
you continue both, okay?
Okay, okay, I'll continue.
Okay,
So
Priya.
this is another Java code that we are debugging and running. This is using the if-else construct. The if-else construct will provide us with a condition. So here we have taken a mark 75 and marks 40. And if the marks is greater than 40, it will print pass. Otherwise, it will fail, print as fail. In case, we can also do the same program for largest of any two numbers. So if I take integer a equal to 50, semicolon, and we take integer b equal to 75, and then we can check using if construct if a is greater than equal to b, and then we have to check the conditions over here. For example, if marks a is greater than b, if this particular condition is true, then it will print system dot out dot println, and it will print the first number is largest. So basically a is largest, else it will print b is largest. So this is the conditional statement that we can use in Java, which will check for conditions. Then we can write system dot out dot println, and it will display b is largest. So whichever the is the largest, that element will be displayed. So we can just debug and run the code and check the output. That is this one. So it displays the output b is largest and the result is pass. So this is how we can basically use this particular line to display the largest of two number. That is a branching statement. So first is a very simple program that does print the statement. Here we are using the conditional block, and this conditional block is giving the largest of two numbers. The next, the looping and branching construct plays a very, very important role in Java. The next code that we are going to do is with the for loop. We can have a for loop or a while loop. Now here there is a for loop that it iterates from 1 to 5, and it displays the number from 1 to 5. So we can use a for loop as well as we can use a while loop. So it can be a mix and match of both the loops. So if we take another variable, for instance, j is equal to 1, and we want the iteration for j between, for example, 1 to 10. So j is less than or equal to 10. And then what we can do, we can start iterating the loop. So we can print system dot out dot println, and then we want to print the in each iteration the value of j that will be incremented by 1. So here instead the j is starting from 1, then j will be iterated by 1, or the loop counter variable for j will be incremented by 1. So we are using two different loop. One is for the ith loop, which is the for loop, and another one is the loop that we use for the jth loop. So the one is the ith loop, and all the two different loops are basically used under the class loop demo. So looping constructs and branching constructs playing a very, very important and vital role. So here we are using the for loop and while loop both, and both the loops are basically iterating. The for loop is iterating from 1 to 5 as the loop counter iterates, and the jth loop is iterating from 1 to 10, And within the body of the loop counter is incremented by 1, as we can see. Now I'll be running the code, and we'll be getting the output. So it's running and debugging. That will eventually, j cannot be resolved to a variable. So we have to define j as integer. Then j is equal to 1. So let us run. Now it is giving us the loop variable that we have used. So 1 to 5 it displayed. That is for the for loop. And for the jth loop, the j will be incremented by 1, j equal to 1. And once we run, the code will be getting the desired output. You can see we are displaying the numbers from 1 to 10. That is for the while loop, and 1 to 5 for the ith loop. So there are two loops that is going on here. First is the ith loop, and the second one is the jth loop. So j loop printing the value from 1 to 10, and the ith loop is printing the value from 1 to 5. We can also have a nested loop in Java. That is, within one loop, we can iterate the another loop. So that is called as nesting of loops. For instance, here, if we have another for loop for int k, that is, we'll write int k equal to 1, semicolon, and then we write k less than equal to 10, and we write k plus plus. So one is the outer loop and one is the inner loop. So the outer loop and the inner loop will be iterating, and this is the inner loop. So inner loop will depend on the positioning of the outer loop, and for the kth loop, what we can write, we can take another variable int p, and what we can do is that we can write p is equal to, or the assignment, I into k. So I into k will be multiplied, and then what we can do is that we can print system dot out dot println. So we can print the product of I and j. That is basically the variable that we have used is we print p. So p will be displayed, and this p will be providing us with the product. So one is the ith loop and another one is the kth loop. So when I is 1, k will iterate from 1 to 10, and it will display the product 1 into 1, 1 into 2, 1 into 3, 1 into 4, 1 into 5, and 1 into the desired output. So basically, the outer loop controls the execution of the inner loop. So we have the outer and the inner loop both working with each other. Now, since we are displaying this, and if we want to print the value of I in the nested loop, then we can define and we can also display the value of I. The inner loop and the outer loop is being nested. So let us debug the code, and then we'll run the code and check the output. So here we are getting the output of both the loops. First one is the inner loop. The second one is the outer loop. The inner loop controls the execution of the outer loop. So when in the outer loop, the I is 1, j is iterating from 1 to 10. And what we can see is that we have 1 to 10 printed. Then when I is 2, j is again iterating from, k is again iterating from 1 to 10. So we have the multiplication table for 2. When I is 3, J will again iterate from 1 to 10. So we'll have a multiplication table for that particular value. Then 4 and then 5 and so on. So when it reaches 5, we'll have for the 5, and we have the last multiplication table is for 5. If we want to display all the 10 multiplication table, that is from 1 to 10, then we need to change the loop counter variable to 10 for the outer loop. So when I is 1, J will iterate from this particular range, and it will show us. So let me annotate and explain this logic, which is very, very important. Because once you know which is the outer and which is the inner loop, and how is the inner loop iterating and changing the value based on the outer. So when I is 1, J is basically here, K is basically iterating, that is from 1 to 10. And basically it is showing us the multiplication table from 1 to 10. So when you run the code, you in the output you'll see the previous it was showing a 5 multiplication table, that is from 1 to 5. But since we have changed the value of k to 10, that means this inner loop will iterate from this multiplication table 1 to 10, because the outer loop is I and the inner loop is k. So when I is 1, J is K is iterating from 1 to 10. Then when I is 2, J will again iterate from, K will again iterate from 1 to 10. When I is 3, J will again iterate from 1 to 10. When I is 4, K will again iterate from 1 to 10. When I is 10, and it will continue. When the value of I reaches 10, the K will again iterate from 1 to 10, and it will display the multiplication table from 1 to 10. And we can see the output here, how the multiplication table are basically provided. So basically this multiplication table gives us how our nested loops working in Java. So if I run the code here, let us debug and run. So we can see the output will pop up, and instead of 5 multiplication table, we are going to have 10 different multiplication table through the nested loop construct. So we can provide looping and branching both in Java programming, which gives a flexibility of a very structured programming in Java. Then we can have the concept of class and object. So we can define a class, and since the Java is an object oriented programming, so let us do a program where we have a student class, and we have the student ID and name. And then what we do is that we create an object of a student class to invoke that. So let me explain this code, snippet of code. Here we are having a student class. So when you define the class, you can define the data member and member function within that class. So here the student class have the student ID and the student name that we have defined. Now this is the public static void main from where the actual execution start. So student is a one particular class, and we are creating an object of the student class. So new is an operator. New is an operator in Java that help us to create an object of a student class. And then what we can do is that we can print or display the value of that particular member function, or the data member that is defined within the student class. So this is how we can use a class object type of constructs that allow us to provide a very clear idea or demarcation how we can create a class, and how we can create an object of a class, and through the object of a class how we can access the data member or member function. Since Java is a object oriented programming language, it supports inheritance, data encapsulation, polymorphism, and a data abstraction. So these are the features of OOPS. that we can totally use in Java programming. Java basically is totally an object-oriented programming language that supports the concept of OOPS or object-oriented programming language, which gives us an idea about how the data are encapsulated. That is the binding of the data member and member function within a class. Then we can create an object of a particular class, and then we can access the data member and member function from that particular class. Now here we have data abstraction. That means you can have public, private, or protected. The class specifier, how you can access the data member and member function from within the class. So this is how we can find out how a class is created and how we can access the data member and member function from within that particular class. So this is how your Java programming provides us with this interface. Java supports inheritance. Inheritance means you have a base class and you have a derived class. Now from a base class, we can inherit the data member and member function for a derived class. For example, here we have a parent. Parent is a one particular class, and in the parent class, we have a member function that shows that this is a parent class. And then we have a child class. So child class inherits the data member and member function that is already defined within the parent class. So parent class is one which gives us the data member and member function. The child class will inherit those data member and member function. So it provides the reusability of the code. So we don't have to write the same code again and again, because we have already defined the data member within the parent class. That particular data member and member function can be directly used by the derived class. So let me run the code. Let me debug it. So, and display the output. So the output is that this is a parent class. So instead of void show, if you write another function, suppose void display, and in that particular function we define some variable and we try to display those values. Suppose we take a variable integer a is equal to 50, and we take another integer b is equal to 50. Now what we try to do is that we try to display these two values. System dot out dot println, and then we give the command that is we provide here the value. The value is what we try to display, that is for a, and then we can display the value for b. So now we create the object of this particular class, and we can display both the value of the data member in the parent class that can be accessed by the derived class. So these are the two data member and member function that we have defined. Now what we need to do is that we need to provide a proper access. So instead of new child is the object of the parent class of the derived class. A derived class is a child class. So using the object of a child class, we can access the member function of the parent class. So display, if we write it over here, so it will display the data member and the member function that has been defined in the parent class. So parent class is the base class, child is a derived class, and by creating an object of a parent class of the child class, we can access the data member and member function from that. So we don't have to separately create those stuff separately here. It provides the reusability of the code. So Java supports various types of inheritance: single inheritance, multi-inheritance, multi-level inheritance, multiple inheritance, and these inheritance provides us the flexibility, adaptability. Inheritance also helps us to modify the code and reuse the code without doing the same activities repeatedly again and again. So I'll run the code and debug it. So there is a thread print stream. So println, the value will be displayed for a parent and a child class here. So this is the one that we can do with the parent class and a child class. And this is another code that we can do. So we have to refer to which particular code that we are doing. So here we are displaying the parent class and the child class. And this is how the Java programming provides us with the flexibility. So this is the child class object showing the object and data member defined within the derived class. So c.display will be using this values, and this values will be displayed in our output. So these are basically inheritance, data encapsulation, using the looping and branching, for loop, and simple statement. Yes, Priya, should I continue more? Hello? Harshit, are you there? So these are basically the coding part that we can use in Java, and it gives us a lot of flexibility in understanding and in identifying which are the areas that we can work on with. Now I'll explain some few more simple examples. For example, uh, we write a fresh program and we can use that particular code here. So we'll go to file and I'm going to new file. So that will be a Java file. So new Java file I have written. Now here I will be extracting some code. For example, I write a program to check or to swap two numbers. So there are two numbers and we want to swap or interchange that two numbers. So we'll create a class swap. And in the class swap, for example, we are writing the code public static void main, and here we are using string, and within the string we are taking the arguments args, and then as usual for every declaration what we use is that we'll continue with this particular statement. For example, we write int a is equal to 10 comma b is equal to 20, and then we take a temporary variable int temp, and then what we try to do, we try to swap the value of the variable a. So we write a equal to b and we write b is equal to temp, and then we print the value of b. System dot out dot println, and we display the value of a plus, then we give the space and we write plus b. So what happens here is that we try to find out a program by which we can swap the value of both the variable a and b. So this is the one code that we can try out with. So we need to check the opening bracket and the closing brackets. Okay, now it is properly balanced. So we are going to save this and run the code. So I start debugging. So it will have to be saved with a name. Suppose I give the name as swap. Now we start debugging and executing the code. So it's a Java file. So the debugger will be debugging the code and it will provide us with the prerequisite output. Delete this token, that is. So we'll be using this particular Java code and syntax. Okay, there is a closing bracket. Okay, we'll be providing over here. And then we'll finish up the debugging that will return us with the desired output or the outcome. So we taken two different variable here and then we run the code and we get the desired output based on the class swap that we have used. So basically we'll go and start debugging. Syntax on token equal to. So basically we have to give a particular name, that is the class swap. Class swap is this one. So run the class swap. So we can write another program in Java. Syntax error on token. Okay, string args. So string has to be in capital. So we'll be using equal to. It's gone to the other code. So take separate statement. Oh. So this is how we can run the code and we can get the output. There is another code that is for the class objects that we have defined, and that particular class object provides us with the different interfaces. Now, this is one particular program that we can do is basically trying to create a factorial of a number. So let us go to that particular code, new Java file. Now here, we'll take a class factorial and then we try to debug this particular code. So class factorial is here and then we use public static void main, and then we have string args, and here we use the parameter inside the code, that is the opening bracket again, and here we are defining a variable integer n is equal to 5. N is equal to 5 and then we take another variable that is long. Fact is equal to 1. That is another variable that we have taken. Now we take a for loop which will calculate the factorial of a number. So int I is equal to 1 and I is less than or equal to n and I plus plus. So we do I plus plus and this iteration will continue for each value of I. So we'll have fact is equal to fact multiplied by I. And once that is done, so we can display the value of the factorial once the loop iterates. System dot out dot println, and then we can print the factorial is equal to comma, and then we can write fact and the semicolon here. That will show us the factorial of that number that can be displayed. So we start debugging, and then we'll try to save it, the name of the class factorial, and that is the Java code that will be displayed. So class swap, but we are not doing class swap. We are doing class factorial. So let us close other programs. So open the factorial one that we have just done, and we'll run the code and debug the code, and it will provide us with the name that we have stored. So it's all the VS Code editor that we are using. Now we'll go into the little bit of theoretical aspects, what we have done practically to understand and correlate it. So I'll share the PPT. So basically we have been doing the compilation and the coding of the Java program, but it all starts with here, that is our JDK installation, Java source code, compiler, and bytecode, which has the JVM or the Java virtual machine. It includes compiler, debugger, and other tools that is used by the developer. It provides a runtime environment and the libraries that is required to run and execute a Java program. So what we have done is we just have defined public static void main string args, and we did some few programs with the basic Java tools here. There are different data types, primitive and non-primitive, and there is a dynamic memory allocation that it supports. Then we have done local variable, instance variable, static and global variable. Then we did implicit and explicit typecasting in Java. Operators we have seen in the programs that we have used: arithmetic operator, relational, logical, and bitwise. We have decision-making statement, if else, and switch case statement, followed by the looping statement for while and do while. So we've seen nested loops in Java using for and while loop. I've just demonstrated few programs where we have used these looping constructs, and we have seen how the looping constructs works in Java programming. Then we have arrays, single dimensional array and multi-dimensional array. We have seen the coding with both the arrays. We had method declaration and method overloading, that is polymorphism in Java, and the OOPS concepts. We did with the constructor, that is when we create an object of a particular class, we can initialize the value of the variable. We did with constructor and the default constructor and the parameterized constructor within the Java programming language. And we had the object-oriented programming concepts, such as we have class, objects, inheritance, and polymorphism that is supported by Java programming language. We had a demonstration on a program with class and objects. So we created a student class and we created an object of a student class. So how we create, we use a new operator to create an object of a class and then to access the data member and member function. We have seen the data abstraction. How do we define the data, the variable as public, private, or protected? We've seen a program on inheritance. The inheritance that shows code reusability in Java. It uses the extend keyword, and there are different types of inheritance: single inheritance, multiple inheritance, multi-level inheritance in Java. Then polymorphism, operator overloading, that we have seen how it works and operates in Java programming language. So compile time and runtime polymorphism that we have seen. Data abstraction and the interfaces that are created in Java programming language. Private, public data types and protected data types that we can use in Java, and we can use those particular data type in Java. And we have packages also, user-defined and predefined packages that we can use in Java programming. Public, private, protected, and default. These are the class access modifiers. So when you define something as public, it can be accessed from outside the class. Private data member or member function can be only accessed from within the class. Protected basically are the data member which is hidden. So we also have exceptional handling block in Java, that we have try block, catch block, and throw block. So in case of any particular error that is arising or any particular exception that is arising, we use this exceptional handling block in Java programming language. So these are the common exceptions or the errors that can be catched. We use multi-threading where we can have a thread life cycle and we can have a runnable interface. So we can have multiple instances or multiple threads running together. We can do a synchronization where we can use the thread separy and synchronize blocks that you can use in Java. And these are the collection framework and file handling, where we use the file reader, file writer, and the buffer reader for providing input-output interfaces in Java programming. Yes, Priya, should I continue more or is it okay? Hello, am I audible? So we have different type of arrays and lists in Java that we can use. And we do have key value pair and faster retrieval that it supports. These are various applications of Java in desktop, web, mobile, and enterprise applications. And these are the advantages of Java programming. It's very secure, portable. It supports a very high performance coding. So Java is very versatile programming language, and it provides a very strong foundation for any software development. So this is very, very important part of your Java. It provides a lot of flexibility to the user to write and execute a Java program. So this is a string, this is a snapshot of a program just right now. I have explained using the VS Code editor. So this was the program that I have demonstrated. So in this program, we have the class hello world, and then we just display this. And when we run the code, and it shows us this particular output. We did this right now in VS Code editor, and we got the output. The second program that we have done was this one. Here we have defined different variables and data types, and we just have displayed those values in the program. So this is another program that we have done in the VS Code editor. We have taken two values and we displayed their output. This is another program that we did in the VS Code editor, and I've shown you use of if-else statement in Java. So we compare two different value. Depending on the condition is true, we print the true value, otherwise we print the false value. This is a looping constructs that we generally use in Java programming. So here the loop iterates from 1 to 5, and it displays the value from 1 to 5 in our Java programming code. Then we have this another program where we use an array, and this array displays the marks in the Java program that we have written. This is a sample class and object program in Java where we are using class, and then we create an object of a class to access the data member and member function. We have a demonstration of this program in the VS Code editor. This is another program that we have seen, the VS Code editor, that displays the use of array in Java program. This is a code that I have executed in the Java using a class and objects, that shows how we can define a class and how we can create an object so that we can access the data member and member function. This is another code with inheritance that I've displayed in the Java VS Code editor, that shows we got a base class and we got a derived class, and creating a object of a child class, we can access the data member and member function from the base class. This is another JavaScript or Java program that I have shown in the VS Code editor using the exceptional handling routine, that is try block, catch block, and throw block. This is a Java program in the VS Code editor that I have displayed for array list, where we define an array and we create a list of data using that particular array list. This is a simple program demonstrating the data types and their application in Java programming, how we can define a data and how we can access those particular data member and member function in Java programming. So this is how we can provide this particular data member and member function. So we have defined a class data type, and what the class data type provides the data member and member function that we can display. This is a class operators where we use the addition and multiplication operator and show their output. And this is a for loop program that I have displayed in the VS Code editor. So VS Code editor, we have done a for loop, and here in the for loop, what we have done is that we have created a public static void main, and we displayed the value from 1 to 5. So that's all for from my end. Is there any queries, anything that I need to address? It's free for question answer session. Yes. Hello, anyone is there? Yes, Priya.
Yeah,
Harshit,
please.
are you?
Yes, yes.